Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Hayami Maseches Nazir Daf Dalad. We are holding on the bottom of Gimel Amud Beis. So what happens if a fellow makes reference to just a single element of the Nazirus process? He says, I'm going to keep away from wine. Does that commit him to be a full-fledged Nazir? Chachamim say yes, as long as you make even a slight reference to any detail, any element of Nazirus. That's enough to take the package off the shelf and you're committed to it. Whereas Rabbi Shimon says, and he learns it from a pasuk, we're going to see in a minute, you need to be comprehensive in your description. So you have a choice. Either you just, speak in general terms, I'm going to be a Nazir, that's enough. Or if you want to go into detail, you have to actually cover all the bases. Says the Gemara 6 lines from the bottom. Let's go back to that piece. My time at Rabbi Shimon. In fact, what is Rabbi Shimon's reason? Why do you need to specify all the elements in order for the Nazirus to be applied? Amakra, the pasuk says Mikoil. The extra word Mikoil indicates comprehensiveness. Mikoil asher ya'asa megefen hayayin me'echartzanim va'adzag. All the grape vine related products are also to the Nazir, and the pasuk indicates you have to describe them all. If you limit yourself to just a single element, you're not a Nazir. For Rabbanan my time, why do the Rabbanan disagree? Amakra, because the pasuk says Miyayin v'shechar yazir. Once we already know that he's forbidden in all grape related, vine related products, why then does the pasuk have to repeat itself? Keep away from wine. Keep away from shechar, aged wine, which intoxicates. The pasuk here is teaching you that even if you chose to make just a slight reference to some details, some specific elements, I'm going to keep away from wine, or that's enough to make Nazirus. So it's a difference of drashes, which leads to the difference of opinion. What then does Rabbi Shimon do with this pasuk of the Rabbanan, which seems to be an extra pasuk? It's coming to teach us something else, says Rabbi Shimon. Hahu, that pasuk, mibayle, is needed le'esor yayin mitzvah. Ki yayin harishus, to teach us that when a fellow accepts upon himself Nazirus, that isser is chal. It's applied even with reference to wine, for which there's a mitzvah to consume. Just as it applies to yayin or rishus, wine, which is just arbitrary, not really a mitzvah. So the chiddush here is that even though you may have a mitzvah to drink that wine, may yayin v'sheichar yazir, keep away, Nazirus overrides that mitzvah. Asks the Gemara, can you please provide an example of wine drinking which is a mitzvah min haTorah? Mahi. For example, Kiddusha, Kiddushta, V'avdalta, wine for Kiddush or Avdallah. Well, Hari Mushva V'imid Olav Mehar Sinai. Why would you even think that's an issue? At most, drinking, wine by Kiddush Avdallah, it's a derabbanon. Min haTorah you mention, the upcoming Shabbos or Yom Tov, but to actually do that ceremony with wine, that's only midrabbanon. It adds chashivas and prominence. It's not min haTorah. He's not mushva v'oimid mehar Sinai. He's not committed. He wasn't ensworn from Har Sinai, meaning that's not considered a mitzvah min haTorah, for which you need a pasuk to enable us to allow the Nazirus to apply itself onto that. There's no mitzvah min haTorah. Why would you even need a pasuk to discuss that? Ella, says the Gemara, rather ki ha damarava. Here's an example of wine drinking, which in fact is a mitzvah, as Rava tells us. Shvua she'eshte. He gets up and says, I make a shvua, I promise to drink this wine. So now he has a mitzvah min haTorah to comply. And on top of that, he made a Nazirus to refrain. V'chazav ra'amar hareini Nazir. Here comes the pasuk and tells us, Asya Nazirus, Chayla al Shavua, the Isser Nazirus, which is sort of like a neder, and therefore it's more object related. That is Chal on the Shavua, which is more personal, and therefore it can work. We had this discussion back in Maseches Nedarim Daf Tezayin. Shavua is personal. I'm not going to, or I am going to, and neder is more object related. This thing is now off limits to me. Nazirus is sort of a hybrid, neder and Shavua, so it has an object aspect to it. wine is off limits to me, and therefore even if I'm meant to drink the wine, but the wine is usher to me, bottom line is the pasuk is teaching us it works, it's compatible. Meaning, even though there is a mitzvah to drink the wine, Nazirs can come and forbid me on that wine. And that is the message of this extra pasuk, miyayin v'sheichar yazer. Says Rav Shimon, it's come to teach us this halacha. Nazirs can be chal on a shvuah. Asks the Gemara, in that case, Rabbanan Nami, what about the Rabbanan who have already used this pasuk to teach us that other halacha that you can accept upon yourself Nazirs even by just mentioning a single element of Nazirs? So how do they know this new halacha? There's no pasuk available for that. They need a pasuk for this chiddush that Nazirs can be applied even to wine, which is a mitzvah. Imkein, says the Gemara, if the pasuk of miyayin v'sheichar yazer is only coming to teach us one halacha, leimer kom miyayin, it would just say the word yayin. My v'sheichar, why they added the word v'sheichar? Shamas minotarti, apparently, it's coming to teach us both halachas that it can work even on on wine drinking, which is a mitzvah. Okay, asks the Gemara of Rab Shimon. Now back to Rab Shimon. So we have an extra word in the pasuk, right? It could have just said yain. Why does it say miyayin v'sheichar? So the Rabbanon have used both words. Each word is sending another message. But Rab Shimon was only using one word of the two. Basically, he had only one drasha, one chiddush, one halacha from this pasuk. So why does the pasuk mention both words? Rab Shimon, time l'chsiv sheichar. In fact, why does the pasuk say sheichar? To teach us another halacha, la'alufi, to learn sheichar l'mikdash, to teach us the definition, the translation of the word sheichar pertaining to the halachos of the Beis HaMikdash. D'chsiv, as the pasuk says, yayin v'sheichar al teisht, ata ubanecha itcha. You, Aaron HaKohen, and your sons may not drink yayin and sheichar prior to entering the Beis HaMikdash. You have to enter with a clear mind, with proper respect. What does yayin v'sheichar mean? We understand yayin. What about sheichar? We derive the meaning of the word sheichar from the pasuk over here by Nazir. Ma gabi Nazir, just like by Nazir. Yayin hu delitzar. Only grape-related products, like real wine, is asur. The pasuk clearly says, "Mikoil asher ya'asur megefen hayayin." It has to be gefen related. So yayin v'sheichar over here means wine. Sheichar means aged wine, which is mishaker. Bottom line is, it's all grape-related materials. Yainu delitzar. Aval sha'ar mashkin loy, but other forms of liquid are not asur by a nazir. Even if they're slightly intoxicating, even if they have a dizzying effect, it doesn't matter. A nazir is mutter in those materials. Avka be'migdash, and therefore we make that connection. It says the word sheichar by nazir. The word sheichar by migdash. We make that gezer or shava to connect the two contexts to teach us. Just like by nazir, it's strictly wine, grape related. Afka be migdash. Likewise, when it comes to the isra of drinking before entering the migdash, afka be migdash name yain udelitzar. The isra only pertains to wine related liquids. Aval sha'ar mashkin amishtakrin loy, but does not apply to other intoxicating or dizzying drinks. Ula fuki mit Rabbi Yehuda, as opposed to Rabbi Yehuda, who told us otherwise. The Sani Ubidaimer. Ochal dvela ki'ilis. A fellow ate a very, very super sweet pressed fig from the place of ki'ilah. V'shasa dvash v'cholav, or he drank some honey or some milk, and that sort of clouded his clarity of mind. V'nichnas l'migdash, and he entered the migdash. Chayav. He is chayav. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the word sheichar pertaining to entering Beis HaMikdash pertains to all these types of liquids. Whereas we disagree. Rabbi Shimon holds no. We learn from the word sheichar by Nazir, it is strictly wine and grape related. Another possibility, another possible application for the word sheichar by Nazir, according to Rabbi Shimon, that was an extra word according to him. What does he apply it for? Reb Shimon Leslie Isru Chalal Isru. We know for a fact that Reb Shimon will never allow one Isser to pile on top of another Isser. So once something is already Asr, you can't make it Asr for another reason. For instance, the Sanya, Reb Shimon Omer, Ha'echel nevelu b'Yom Kippurim Potter. It's Yom Kippur, one may not eat in any case. There's a nevela, a dead animal there, which is also Asr regardless of Yom Kippur. So he has a nevela on Yom Kippur. Reb Shimon says he's Asr. Because once it's a nevela, Reb Shimon says he's only Asr on account of nevela. He doesn't get punished on account of Yom Kippur, and the reason is because once it's nevela, it's already Asr. You can't get another Isser on top of that. So how does that pertain to our sugya? Explain the Farshim, what the Gemara means is like this. Suppose a person says, I'm not going to drink wine. He committed himself by way of Ishvo not to drink wine. Can he go ahead then afterwards and add another Isser of Nazir on top of that? Which will give him two reasons for the Isser to drink the wine. Typically, we don't allow it. Typically, we would have one Isser apply itself on top of the other under certain circumstances. The second Isser is sort of broader than the first Isser. Isser Kailul, Isser Maisif, it's a sugi increases. Reb Shimon disagrees. Reb Shimon would say that typically an Isser cannot be applied on top of another Isser. You can't have a double-decker Isser. So, once he makes an Isser, I will not drink wine, he can't put Nazirus on top of that. Comes the pasuk and says, Miyain v'shechar yazer. The word shechar is extra to teach us. Here it's different. You can apply, even according to Reb Shimon, Isser Nazirus on top of an Isser. A pre-existing Isser on that wine. So bottom line is, if he made an Isser, I will not drink wine, and then he made Nazirus on top of that, then Nazirus is chal. Nazirus is different. We explained this before a bit, that Nazirus is different than just a typical shvur, than a typical neder. It can sort of apply itself on top of those things. Continues the Gemara. Okay, so we settled, Reb Shimon's score, so to speak. We explained what Reb Shimon did with the extra pasuk. Now let's focus on the Rabbanan. Reb Shimon learned his Ikar halacha from the words Mikoila Sheyasa, which teaches us there has to be a complete and comprehensive description of the various elements of Nazirus. But if you pick and choose just one or two, you don't get Nazirus. Rabbanan disagreed. Even by saying I'm a Nazir from wine, that makes you a full-fledged Nazir. What do the Rabbanan do with Rabbi Shimon's pasuk? What do they do with that pasuk, which indicates comprehensiveness, which they disagree with? Rabbanan will respond, Hasam limed Ali Surei Nazir Shemitzar from Zemzeh. The pasuk here is teaching us there's some connection between all the various materials which are also to a Nazir. Since they're all Nazir related, meaning wine, grapes, etc., if you even just combine a bit of this, a bit of that, a bit of grape leaves, a bit of pits, a bit of skins, put it together, and you have a total of a kazayis, they are mitztarev ze'imzeh. That's what the pasuk is teaching us. Everything that's grape, that's wine related, can be combined to get you a shir kazayis to make him liable. But Reb Shimon, let's tziruf. What is Reb Shimon? Has no need to learn this halach from this pasuk because, to begin with, he doesn't hold on this idea. The Sanya Reb Shimon Omer. Kol shu lamakis. Anything which is forbidden, asher ba'achila, does not require a shiur of a kazayis. That's Reb Shimon's shita. And Me'ilah and Malkus, he holds even a drop of Isra makes Malkus, is liable to lashes. Lo yamru kazayis, elolin in carbon, when it comes to bringing a carbon, if one does it b'shegeg, by accident, then we have a din of kazayis. Otherwise, even just a drop triggers a Malkus. So likewise, when it comes to Nazir, even a drop of a grape skin would be enough. You don't need to combine to be mitzarav, and therefore there's no need to learn this from the pasuk. Bottom line is like this: a person gets up and says, "I'm going to be a nazir from wine." Is he a Nazir? Rabbi Shimon says no. If you go into detail, you have to go through the whole list. Otherwise, it does not trigger Nazirus. Rabbanan say yes. Miyayin v'shecha yajer. See that they're detailed and thus indicated to us that even a mere reference to some element of Nazirus is sufficient to trigger Nazirus. Then the Gemara went on to explain what each Shita does with the other one's psukim. We learned about Nazirus being chal on Dvar Mitzvah, or Nazirus being chal on Isser. We learned about Tziruf. We learned about the details of the Isser Shasiya by the Beis HaMikdash. And that's the conclusion of the sugya. Continues the Mishnah, Hareinui Ke Shimshon. We all know that Shimshon was some form of Nazir. A fellow gets up and says, I'm going to be like Shimshon. And he continues, Kiben Manoyach, like the son of Manoyach, who was Shimshon's father. And then he'll say one of the following added, descriptive details. So he starts by saying, I'm like Shimshon, like Ben Manoyach. And then he adds, either by saying Kibal Delilah, like the husband of Delilah, that was Shimshon's wife, or he says, I want to be Kamisha Akar Dalsis Azar, like the fellow who uprooted the entranceway, the doorway to Gaza, which was Shimshon. Or he says Kamisha Nikru Plishtim as Enev, like this person who suffered under the hands of the Plishtim, who bored out his eyes. All these are references to Shimshon, and therefore raise a Nazir Shimshon. This makes him a Nazir Shimshon. He has to adhere to the halachos of Nazirus. Asks the Gemara, why does the person have to go through all the various descriptions of Shimshon? Lamali lemisno kal halin. Why does he have to describe him as Shimshon ben Manoyach bal Dalila? Why isn't it enough to just say, I want to be like Shimshon? We all know who he was. Tzrichi, all these various details are needed and necessary to identify the right person. The Amarein ki Shimshon. Had he just said, I'm going to be like Shimshon, well, it's not clear enough. It's not conclusive enough. Havemina, I would say, Shimshon Achrina. There are many other Shimshons out there. We don't know which Shimshon he means. Kamashmon Kibbe Manoyach. That's why he needs to add, I want to be like Shimshon, the son of Manoyach. Now he's getting closer to home. V'itana Kibbe Manoyach. If he only says that, Havemina, I would say, Ikud Miskari Hachi. There are others that are called Ben Manoyach. We have no idea who he means, or at least it's not conclusive. Kamashmon. That's why he has to add one of the other descriptions as well. But he has a choice, one of the other ones, either Kabal Dalila or Ukimishanikru Pishtimas Enov, and now we know for sure who he's referencing. Now we have a regular Nazir, we have a Nazir Shimshon, and now comes a third version of Nazirus, called a Nazir Oilam. I want to be Nazir for the rest of my life. Nazir Oilam. That also triggers Nazirus, but as the Mishnah tells us, Ma bein Nazir Oilam, the Nazir Shimshon. Are there any differences between when a person is makabel upon himself to be a Nazir Oilam or he's makabel to be a Nazir Shimshon? Two differences. Nazir Oilam, if he's a forever Nazir, then hichbid sa'arei. Once in 30 days when his hair starts getting a bit heavy on him, there is a special dispensation, mekel betar, he can trim himself even when using a razor. But then he has to bring behemoths, or maybe shalosh behemoths. He must bring the 3 standard karbonos, which a regular Nazir brings at the end of his term. And oila echatas and eshlamim. Number 2, v'imnitma, maybe karban tuma. If the Nazir oilam should become tamei, he has to bring the karbonos, which are designated for a Nazir tamei. That's the animal for the asham. 2 birds, one for a chatas, one for an oilam. As opposed to a Nazir Shimshon, who doesn't have these obligations. Nazir Shimshon, hechbit tzari, einay mekel. He can never trim himself. If he gets tamei, einay, maybe karban tuma, he will not bring a karban tuma. The reason is because he could be tamei. Just as Shimshon himself was tamei, as we're going to see in the Gemara. 1 second, says the Gemara. Are you making reference to a Nazir Oilam? Whoever discussed Nazir Oilam, what exactly is that? Nazir Oilam man k'dachar shemei. Who even made reference to Nazir Oilam? Why are you elaborating on something which we don't even know about? Answers the Gemara. You're right. The Mishnah is meant to be learned as though it's missing some words, and read it as follows. We start. Person declares himself to be a Nazir Oilam. Raise a Nazir Oilam. In fact, he becomes a Nazir Oilam. And now we want to go into the distinctions between Oilam and Shimshon. Ma bein Nazir Olam, Nazir Shimshon. What differences are there between the two types of Naziros? Nazir Olam, we have the Hechbet Sa'ari make a batar, you trim once in a while. Umevi Shalosh Behemoths, in which case he has to bring the behemoths, the karbanis. Number two, V'yim Nitma, maybe Karban Tuma, he shouldn't become Tama. If he does, he needs to bring those karbanis, as opposed to Nazir Shimshon. He doesn't have these aspects of Naziros. Hechbet Sa'ari, even if he has long hair, Einay make a batar, there's no heter to trim. Number two, Ve'eni mevi karban tuma, he will not bring a karban tuma. Which almost sounds like he shouldn't become tamei. A karban tuma, hu delay maisi, he will not bring a karban upon tuma, avon nazirus chayla, but he's a regular nazir. He can't become tamei because he's a nazir. Is that so? That creates an issue. Why? Mani Masnisen, who's the author of this Mishnah, who considers this thing called nazirus shimshon as real nazirus, and doesn't allow it to become tamei. Mani masnis. Lo Rabbi Yehuda, lo Rabbi Shimon. It's not Rabbi Yehuda, nor is it Rabbi Shimon, who had conflicting views about this idea of Nazirus Shimshon, the Sanya. Rabbi Yehuda, Nazir Shimshon, muter l'tamei l'meisen. If a person accepts upon himself to be a Nazir Shimshon, it activates a certain process of Nazirus, but he can become tamei even to a mace. Shekein matzino b'Shimshon shenitma. We find a precedent. Shimshon Hagiber himself became tamei. Apparently, it was okay. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, there's a concept called Nazirus Shimshon, but it allows for a tumah. Rabbi Shimon Omer, he disagrees entirely with this concept. Don't treat Shimshon like a regular Nazirus. You can't use that as a catalyst, as a source for your Nazirus. Rabbi Shimon Omer, Ha'omer Nazir Shimshon, lo yamar klum. If a person gets up and declares, I will be like Shimshon, it doesn't work. Shaloi matzinu b'Shimshon. We never find throughout the Psukim that Shimshon himself committed himself to be a Nazir. He never committed, he never verbalized, he never expressed commitment to be a Nazir. Whatever happened there, we're not sure. It was the Malach's instructions to his parents. It was a sort of a new type of Nazirus. Nothing that we can emulate today. That's the price. Now we have a problem. Mani, who's speaking in our Mishnah? Our Tana, who considers this as a valid Nazirus, which we can emulate, and number two, which doesn't allow Tumah. Rabbi Yehuda. Is it Rabbi Yehuda speaking? Well, we're right on one account, but wrong on the other. Ha'amar afilu l'chatchila. Rabbi Yehuda considers this as a Nazirus, but he says you can become tamei. U'ma'asis and katani, as opposed to our Mishnah, which says you shouldn't become tamei. Im nitma. If he becomes tamei, there are no karbanis, which sounds like he should not become tamei. And Rabbi Yehuda allows him to become tamei. That doesn't work. Rabbi Shimon, is our Mishnah Rabbi Shimon? Well, you never get to first base. He holds that you cannot emulate, you can't accept upon yourself Nazirus at all. So we're stuck. Our Mishnah is Rabbi Yehuda speaking. Nazirus Shimshon is a phenomenon which can be emulated and which allows for Tumah l'chatchila. Although the Mishnah sounds like Tumah is just a b'diavad, it's not so. We're just using matching language. V'aydi diktani. Gabi Nazir Olam im nitma. On account of the reference to Nazir Olam, where we say, well, Nazir Olam will become tamei. He shouldn't become tamei, but if he does become tamei, he brings karbanos. There it's only b'diavad. So when we go over to the other side of the coin and we match the Nazir Shimshon to that, we compare the Nazir Shimshon, we also use a b'diavad Tana Namika. But Nazir Shimshon, im nitma, we mention if he becomes tamei, but of course, lichatchila, it's allowed by Nazir Shimshon. Bottom line is, there is a fundamental machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda, who says Nazir Shimshon is a valid Nazirus. This, notwithstanding the fact that it has its own guidelines, you can become tamei, but it is a form of Nazirus which any person can emulate down the road. What does Rabbi Shimon says? That's some special phenomenon which cannot be emulated. Lema beplukta danitanoy kamifliki, perhaps this machlekes regarding Nazirus Shimshon matches another machlekes tanoim regarding a similar concept. A kedusha which is heaven-made, which isn't man-made, is it considered something which can be drawn from? Can a person make a neder rooted and sourced in that type of kedusha? This none, as we learned in the Mishnah. We had this back in the Durham, if you remember. Harei like a b'chor. He points at a piece of meat and says, I'm accepting upon myself an isser. This should be usher to me as neder, just like the kedusha of a bechor, a firstborn kosher animal, which is kaddish. Kaddish at birth. It's a heaven-made kedusha. He wants to use that kedusha as a catalyst, as a source for his kedusha today, as his precedent, so to speak. The halach is, to make a neder, you have to be matfis bedavar hanadar. You have to source it in something which is usher by way of man. What about bechor? Rabbi Yaakov Oyser, he says, Kedushas Bechor can be used in this manner. Can be used as a basis for further nedarim. Rabbi Yossi Mater, he says, no, you haven't made a neder. Bechor, that's heaven-made, that's not man-made. You can't draw from that. My love. Oh, we have a perfect match to our sugi regarding Nazirus Shimshon, which as well was a heaven-made Nazirus. My love, shall we not propose? Rabbi Yehuda Savar, like Rabbi Yaakov. Rabbi Yehuda holds like Rabbi Yaakov. We don't need the man-made the Surim, man-made Nedarim. Nazirus Shimshon, even though it was a malach generated Nazirus, it as well can be used to generate further Nazirus. You can get up today and say, I want to be a Nazir Shimshon. Just like I can make this Asr like a Bechor. Rabbi Shimon Savar like Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Shimon, who disagrees, holds like Rabbi Yossi, the Amar Be'inu Davar HaNidar, when it comes to making an Isser or a Neder or Nazirus, you have to pick something which is man-made, as opposed to Nazirus Shimshon, as opposed to Bechor. Is that so? That these two discussions correspond? They match up? Loi, the Kuli Alma Be'inu Davar HaNidar. Truth be told, when it comes to Nedarim, you need to hang on to something which was man-made. How then does Rabbi Yaakov allow us to use Bechor? Oh, V'shani Bechor. Bechor is different. D'chsiv Be'el Hashem. La Rabbi says Bechor. The pasuk speaks about making a neder. It says Ish ki yida neder LaHashem. So the word LaHashem indicates La Rabbi says Bechor. Even though a Bechor isn't your typical carbon which is man-made, whose kedusha was generated by man. Bechor is meirechem, from birth, but it does qualify for hatfasa. And soon the Gemara will explain why. We're not exactly sure why. We have a pasuk which will include Bechor, allow it to be used as a source and basis for further nedarim. But when it comes to Nazirus, you can't use Nazirus Shimshon to make a further neder. Rabbi Yossi, so that's Rabbi Yaakov. That's why Bechor can be used for nedarim LaHashem. Rabbi Yossi who disagrees by Bechor, he says, well, I know it says Hashem. How will Hashem, the pasuk Hashem, will be applied to something else? It's needed l'rabbi's chatas v'ashem. That a person can use the kedusha of a chatas and ashem as a catalyst for a further neder. Even though you would think, no, chatas and asham is coming to be machaper, you need to bring it, it's obligatory. It isn't initiated totally by man. It isn't like a donation which you choose to bring, you have to bring it. But after all, it is man-made. You're the one who designates the chatas. You're the one who is mekadesh the asham. It's called davar ha-nadar and can be used as a basis for further nedarim. But not Bechor, which is totally natural kedusha. Umar rois l'rabbis chatas v'asham. Why do you prefer including chatas v'asham u'lo'itzias ha'bechor and to exclude Bechor? Very simple. Mar bani chatas v'asham shekein matfisim beneder. After all, a chatas v'asham is to be included because it is generated by neder. I make the chatas. I generate the asham. U'moitzianis ha'bechor as opposed to Bechor, which I don't consider man-made kedusha. She'ein matfisim beneder. I'm not the one who makes it Kaddish. I'm not the one who designates Kedusha. It's born that way. And therefore, says Rabbi Yossi, I can say this piece of meat is asr like a chatas v'asham, because that is a davar hanodar, but I cannot say the same regarding Bechor. Rabbi Yaakov disagrees. Rabbi Yaakov Amar Lacha, Bechor nami matfisa benederu. Even the Kedushas Bechor is generated by man somewhat. To Sanya, as we learn, Shal Beis Rabbeinu Amru. In the Beis Yeshiva of Rabbeinu HaKadosh, they said, from when we know that when a person finds a Bechor in his herd, Don't think it's already Kaddish. No, there's a mitzvah to go ahead, Shemitzvah Lakdisha, to add Kedusha, say this is a Bechor. Hashem wants you to be involved in that process. Shenamar HaZochar Ta'agdish. So there is some some man-made element in Kedushas Bechor on top of the natural Kedusha. And therefore, that is sufficient for us to consider it a Davar HaNadar and be used for Atfasas Neder. Rabbi Yossi disagrees, of course. Rabbi Yossi Amar Lacha, well, the mitzvah Lakdisha, true. There's a mitzvah to add Kedusha, to verbalize Kedusha, but at the end of the day, you don't need it. It's Kaddish regardless. Its primary main Kedusha is there already from birth. Iloi Magdish, if the owner doesn't add Kedusha, Miloi Kaddish, isn't it Kaddish on its own? Therefore, it doesn't qualify, it's not considered a Davar HaNadar. So this is all pertaining to Bechor. Right? So we had three categories. We had a donation, an oila, a shlamim, which you donate. That's of course Davar HaNadar. It can be used as a basis for further Nadarim. Chatas v'asham, even though it's obligatory, but you're Magdish it, again, all agree it works. A Bechor is a machlekes, because it's really totally Kaddish on its own. The fact that you can add another layer of Kedusha, is that considered Davar HaNadar? Rabbi Yaakov says yes, Rabbi Yossi says no. But when it comes to Nazir, specifically Nazir's Shimshon, which was generated by the Malach, it wasn't personal, it wasn't made by Shimshon himself. Perhaps that has nothing to do with Bechor. Perhaps over here all would agree. Rabbi Yaakov and Rabbi Yossi would agree. You can't use Nazir's Shimshon to make further Nazirs. Now, why does Rabbi Yehuda consider it like regular? Like you can. He said you can make yourself a Nazir's Shimshon. So apparently Rabbi Yehuda holds. The Rosh goes into this. He says that Rabbi Yehuda Savar the Shimshon Kibbul of Nazirus. He learns perhaps that Shimshon did, when he became Bar Mitzvah, he did accept upon himself Nazirus. Or he says his father Manayach was madir him, imposed Nazirus on him, which is something a father can do upon his son. So, bottom line is Rabbi Yehuda does consider Nazirus Shimshon to be like a regular Nazirus, which was man-made and accepted by either Shimshon himself, by his father, and therefore a person can get up and say, I'm going to be like a Nazir Shimshon. But the Gemara asks a kasha. Perhaps, just like by Bechor, because of the word Lashem, we say, that element of man-made Kedusha is sufficient to regard a Bechor like a Davar HaNadar. Likewise by Nazirus, it says, Nazir lahazir Lashem. So perhaps the word Lashem should teach us that even Nazirus Shimshon, which is for the most part a heaven-made obligation, perhaps that's also considered like a regular Nazirus, in which case a person can accept upon himself that Nazirus. Says the Gemara, no, because we're going to use Lashem for something else. Hahu, that pasuk Lashem miboile is needed for something else. Kedesanya, for the concept learned in the following brisa to teach us. Ideally, Nazirus should be something a person accepts upon himself totally for Hashem's sake, to achieve closeness to Hashem, to protect himself from a really challenging Nisayan. That's when you use Nazirus. That's something which you use, haphazardly, to soothe one's conscience, to protect himself from, retribution, from einish. That's not the proper, way to use Nazirus. Nazirus is meant to be used Lashem, Kedesanya. Omar Shimon HaTzadik. Shimon HaTzadik, as we know, was a Kohen Gadol for many years in the Beis HaMikdash. And he said like this, he declared, Mi Yamai, throughout my entire career, Lo Yachalti Asham Nazir Tami. There were many times that a Nazir would become tummy, would have to bring his karbanis and start from fresh. I wouldn't want to partake in his karbanis. I was concerned that perhaps when things get difficult, when the going's tough, he perhaps regrets it and it's not really being brought wholeheartedly. I don't want to get involved in that korban. Except for one time when I saw his intentions were genuine and real. L'shem Shamayim, I had no qualms about participating in his korban. I knew that he had no regrets. He was in it for the long run. So everybody I kept away from, chutz me'adam echadis, except for this one person, this one time. This fellow came to me, Shaboylaim and Adorim. He came from the south of Eretz Yisrael, Yefei Enayim, nice looking eyes, v'teiv roya, handsome fellow. V'vu soisav, and his hair locks, sturas le'taltalim, were arranged. His locks were arranged. His curly hair was all worked out, and he had such nicely styled hair. And he's coming to the Mikdash to complete his Nazirus, which entails a shave. I tell him, B'nai, my son, what possessed you? L'shachis se'ar, why are you destroying this beautiful arrangement, the hair arrangement? Amarli, he tells me, listen, I'll tell you the truth. Roya hayisi la'avi biri. I was a shepherd for my father back in town. One day I'm going to draw water from the well, and I noticed my reflection. I started feeling good about myself. And the Yitzhar jumped on me and wanted to derail me from this world, to bring me to Averu. I responded to the Yitzhara fiercely, like this. Reika, you empty one. Worthless Yitzhara. You're just enticing me. You're just trying to get me involved in meaningless fantasies. Why are you generating haughtiness based on my looks and my hair? It's a world that doesn't belong to you. It's a fleeting world. It's nothing permanent. He's addressing his guf, his earthly side of things. He says, ultimately, you're going to end up being, deep in the ground, rima v'seileya, bugs and worms. I'm not going to succumb to this type of some temptation. Ha'avoida, referencing the service in the Beis HaMikdash. I swear, I promise. I'll take this very hair. I'll take you and bring you to Hashem. That's why I'm here. Shimon HaTzadik was so impressed. The reason why he committed to shave off his hair, was to protect himself from Avera, to elevate his earthliness and incorporate it into Kedusha. Amati, I got up in a Shakti Valreisha, I gave him a kiss on his head. Amati, I tell him, wow, you're for real. Kamoischa, just like you, Yirbu Nazirim B'Yisrael, there should be many other Nazirim like you in Klal Yisrael. Allah HaKasav Ayman, you, the pasuk says, Ishki Yafli, Lindar Neder Nazir Lazar La Hashem, because you have L'Shem Shammai. And that's the message that the pasuk is teaching us. Ideally, it should be done with L'Shem Shammai. Okay, so bottom line is, we have a machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda who says Shimshon was a real Nazir. And likewise today, a person could accept upon himself that type of Nazirus, which has some sort of a leeway. You can be mutter l'tamel mason. Rabbi Shimon says it was a one-time phenomenon which cannot be emulated today. Asks the Gemara why. V'shimshon lav Nazir hava. Shimshon was not a real Nazir. Uksiv ki Nazir elakim yanar min abeten. Yeah, you should be a real Nazir. Answers the Gemara, Hasam malach hudika amar. The point wasn't to tell them that after he's born, they should impose Nazirus on him, he should accept the Nazirus on him, his father should make him a Nazir like a regular Nazir. No. The Malach is telling him that, look, he's going to be a Nazir. And in fact, they have to start conducting themselves in a certain manner, which is befitting the Nazirus of their child, but it's a certain new brand of Nazirus which doesn't really fit any other criteria. It's not your standard Nazirus, and therefore we're unsure how to treat it. Now Rabbi Yehuda was confident that Shimshon was allowed to become Tamil Mesim. How do we know that? Is it because the pasuk says Shimshon was telling them, look, I used the cheek of the donkey to kill 1,000 plishtim. Apparently he was able to kill people, even though he was a Nazir. Well, Dilma, perhaps he just threw it at them like an arrow, without making contact. Dilma giruye, garibu, he treated like an arrow, he threw it at them, without touching them. Elamacha, rather from this pasuk we see that he became tamei. He killed 30 of them. He took off their garments. Apparently he made contact with dead people. Perhaps he removed the garments first, and then killed them. So there's no raya. No, vayach, it says he first struck them. Vayikach ksiv, vayach, and then vayikach. That's what it says. Apparently he made contact with Mason. Well, maybe he struck them hard and he sort of put them into a state of goisis, hovering between life and death, in which case they were not yet tamei. And that's when he removed the garments. So there's no raya. Ella, rather, how do we know he became tamei? Gemara, Gemirla. It's a tradition that we have. We know for a fact that he became tamei. Apparently, a Nazir Shimshon doesn't have that restriction. Okay, let's do a quick chazar on today's daf. A person says, I'm going to be a Nazir. Of course, that triggers Nazirus all the way. What if he says, I'm going to be a Nazir from just, he says wine, without elaborating further. I'm going to be a Nazir from wine. Or he says, I'm going to be a Nazir from Mason. Rabbi Shimon says, and it's based on a pasuk, once you go into detail, you have to be comprehensive, otherwise it does not make Nazirus. Rabbanan say, no, miyayin v'sheichar yazer, an extra pasuk teaching us even referencing just a minor detail triggers the Nazirus. We learned that Nazirus can be chal even on a dvar mitzvah, or even on an isser. We learned that entering the mikdash will only be usher after drinking wine. Regarding other liquids, Rabbi Yehuda says it's a problem. Rabbanan disagree. Aside from standard Nazirus, which lasts 30 days, we have Nazirus Shimshon, we have Nazirus Olam. What's the difference? By a Nazir Olam, you can trim your hair every once in a while, and if you become tummy, which you're not meant to become, you bring karbonis. Nazir Shimshon doesn't have both those things. He can never trim, and he can become tummy l'meisen. This is, of course, based on the idea that there is something called Nazirus Shimshon. That's Rabbi Yehuda's shita. What does Rabbi Shimon says? It was a one-time phenomenon generated by the Malach, not something which we can copy and emulate today. The word Lashem by Nazirus tells us, ideally, Nazirus should be Lashem Shemaim, to generate closeness to Hashem. All the best to you, Hatzlacha Rabbah, and Besureis Teves.